Hey everybody, it's GomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing the Festival, the Autonomous Furnace Event. This is a 60 card standard singleton event, meaning we can play with anything we own in standard, but only one of every card. We have the Autonomous Furnace emblem really shaking it up, making it a very unique event. It says whenever you discard one or more non-land cards, you may exile one of them from your graveyard, and if you do, you may cast it this turn. So the primary mechanics in Standard right now to build around with this are blood tokens from Innistrad that allow you to discard a card and draw a card. A lot of ways to produce those and get some really good value with this emblem, turning them into just straight up draw a card. There's also Channel from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, where you have cards that give you pretty good value when you discard them for their channel effect. And with this emblem, you could discard them to their channel effect and then just cast them from exile also. So that's pretty sweet. And there's also Connive from Streets of New Capenna, an ability that lets you draw a card and discard a card whenever you play a creature with Connive. So you can make that kind of just straight up draw a card as well if you have the mana to cast whatever you're discarding. So those are the primary mechanics to try to build around. Other than that, of course, anything that lets you discard and draw a card like Thrill of Possibilities and stuff. So I expect to see a lot of red, a lot of black, and a lot of red-black, because those are the colors that have the most self-discard in general, and they have the blood token mechanic in Standard right now. So I expect a lot of very similar decks to be running around in this event. The entry fee is 2,500 gold or 500 gems. For the fee, you get to play the event as long as you want, gaining a card style for Sawblade Scamp, Urabrask's Anointer, Slowbad Iron Goblin, Capricious Hellraiser, and Sulfime Mayhem Dominus for your first 5 wins. But if you just want those card styles, this is the cheapest way to get them. Just pay your entry fee and you can just wait until the event ends in a few days. You don't actually have to play any of the Autonomous Furnace format if you're not interested in it. So that's what we're getting for our entry fee. Without further ado, let's take a look at our deck and show off what we're going to be trying to do today. So here's a look at today's deck list. This is going to be a black-red or Rakdos mid-range deck utilizing a ton of different cards that allow us to discard a card. This is one of the easiest, most synergistic things you can build because this color pair has the most self-discard between blood tokens and a little bit of channel effects, and just cards that naturally let you discard, like the Elder Dragon War, like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and stuff like this. So I expect this to be one of the most popular decks in the format. I expect a bunch of people to have different variations on this list, but hopefully we have at least a few things that are a little unique to our deck, and it's going to be a pretty fun deck for sure. It's got a lot of my favorite cards from just black and red and standard in general that are just super powerful cards regardless of the emblem, like Sheoldred the Apocalypse, just already a super powerful card. Same with Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, cards that are just in here to be absolute haymakers. But there's also some cards that are super powerful in standard already that get even stronger based on this emblem. Of course, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is one of those. With this card, you spend 3 mana, get your 2/2 goblin that can create treasures, and then next turn is when the saga makes you discard cards to draw cards. So it's a card that makes sure that when you discard cards to it, you're going to have all your mana untapped. So you can very easily just choose to discard whatever you're going to cast this turn anyway, and then cast it from exile. So you can get just free value off of the second part of this saga. If this wasn't already one of the most busted red cards on Arena in general, it's even better in this format, and it's a massive reason to be playing red if there weren't enough already. So highly recommend, like Mono Red and Rakdos is probably the strongest decks in the format. We also have a bunch of blood token producers. Again, as I said before, you can turn these blood tokens into 1 mana tap, draw a card, as long as you're discarding something that you're planning on casting this turn anyway. So Blood Tithe Harvester, Voldaren Epic here, some cards that can get blood every single turn, like Falconwrath Forebear. It's a lot of blood token production there. And then we have a little bit of the channel synergies with cards like Reinforced Ronin that I think will be a staple in every red deck in the format. We can channel this for 2 mana to draw a card and then cast it from exile for 1 mana to put it on the board, and then it'll just hop right back into our hand during our end step to do it all again the next turn. So it's like a 3 mana per turn mana sink to sit there and drawing cards which is a nice card draw engine that red decks don't usually get. So I think it'll be a little better in mono red than in Rakdos, but still pretty fun synergy for this deck, so I am going to be playing around with it. Some more cards that are just the best stuff in Rakdos and Standard, like Evolved Sleeper, Misery Shadow. We got a Flesh Gorger here at 3 mana, Blade Coil at the top end of the curve. Vraska's like the new hotness we'd like to try out. And Liliana is another one that's just kind of one of the best black or red cards in Standard, but gets a lot better in this format. Because if our opponent taps out, if they don't have any instants in their hand, when we use Liliana's +1, if we have all of our mana untapped, we can just cast whatever we discard, whereas our opponent, who's likely casting stuff during their own turn, won't have the mana up to cast whatever they're discarding to Liliana's +1. So Liliana, another tremendously powerful card in Standard already, that gets better based off of this emblem. We have a bunch of the best removal in Standard as well, so that we have some interaction. Go for the Throat, Infernal Grasp, Abrade, but then we also have like Cathartic Pyre, which is usually a little weaker and doesn't quite make the cut, but that discard effect goes up quite a bit in value when we can potentially cast some of the stuff that we're discarding. Same with like Thrill of Possibility, becomes a better card draw engine, or a better card draw spell when we can cast whatever we discard. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A bunch of blood tokens, some discard effects, and a bunch of the best black and red cards in Standard. Raven Man is probably the coolest and strongest card in terms of something that doesn't really see Standard play, but will be tremendously powerful in this format. A 2-mana 2/1, but at the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, you get to create a 1/1 black bird with flying that can't block. With each player building around this emblem, this is likely to trigger very often. We're obviously always going to discard a card during our own turn, at least most of the time, and if our opponent's building a similar deck, they're going to discard cards pretty often and trigger our Raven Man as well. So that's going to be a super fun one, and the Raven Man, of course, works super well. If we can turn 2 Raven Man into turn 3 Gix, all of those flying ravens are really nice ways to trigger Gix's card draw, so that should be super fun. So that's the deck we're going to be playing today. I will have a deck list in the link in the description below. I will also have a link to Magic Arena Zone's article on this event if you want to see a few different decks to choose from. They do an article for every different event and have a few deck lists. So I highly recommend the site. Not affiliated with them in any way, but I think they're a pretty great source of just deck lists and stuff in general for varying formats if you're interested in that. I believe they built mono red, they built their own Rakdos build, and like an Esper Connive build, like the Esper mid-range decks with like Rafine that has all those Connive triggers to draw and discard. So some different deck lists if you want to look through those. But other than that, without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. We've got Proving Ground to hit the board tapped turn 1. Make sure our mana base is working quite well, and we can get that turn 2 Raven Man to try to do some spicy stuff. Also just turn 2 Misery Shadow if I want to try to draw removal for my opponent. Since they're on red, they probably have a good amount of cheap removal. I think I actually will go Misery Shadow, because I'm not actually going to be discarding a card for a little while, so we won't trigger our own Raven Man. Don't really want to rely on my opponent triggering it immediately to get value off of it, where they might just blow it up instantaneously. Yep, they are just going to Lightning Strike our first card. There goes Misery Shadow. We'll play a Phyrexian Arena here. That could be a little scary in this matchup. But we do have Anya, Maid of Dishonor, coming up, so if they don't blow up Anya, we should be able to potentially drain them for some life, gain some life here. But this doesn't look like a great matchup for Phyrexian Arena, seeing our opponent on mono red here. So draw a card, we've got Cut Down to blow up the Phyrexian Dragon Engine. That is probably the play. If I play Anya and they remove her with anything, we're going to be taking a big hit from that double strike. Yeah, let's go Cut Down the Dragon Engine. I'd actually just go Underdog instead of Raven Man, though, still. Because again, I'm not planning on discarding anything next turn, and I don't want to rely on my opponent being the first one to discard something. I want to make sure I'm getting at least one bird off of the Raven Man before Raven Man is blown up by some kind of removal. So they are going to just play a Scrapwork Mutt here. trigger that furnace, discarding the Brotherhood's End, but they're not going to cast the Brotherhood's End, so no extra value for them there. Okay, we've got a Vraska coming up. Well, we're going to have to play our 5th land tapped here, because we're definitely going to want to play Vraska. 2-1 Scrapwork Mutt. We just drop in Anya and pass the turn. Hope they can't kill our 4-5. We just take 2 on the Crackback, which isn't that bad. They could unearth the Dragon Engine, though, and that would be a pretty big hit. I think I still send this Underdog in, though. We're going to let them get Scrapwork Mutt unearth value if they want to chump, but they do not want to chump. Yeah, let's drop Anya here. Get our blood token. And our ability to potentially drain our opponent for 2 life. Make them lose 2 and have us gain 2. Draconic Destiny on the Scrapwork Mutt. Send it into the sky. What happens? When an enchanted creature dies, return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. So if I turn the enchanted creature into a treasure token, the creature technically doesn't die, and Draconic Destiny will go to the graveyard. So we'll do that. We're going pretty low on life here, because I do have to pay 2 to play this Vraska. But that is certainly the play here. We need to get that thing dealt with. I'm going to hold Underdog back so I have a chump blocker for the Dragon Engine, because they can unearth it with the Scrapwork Mutt. But I do want to hit them here, hit for 4. But with Scrapwork Mutt as a treasure token, they do have 5 mana. They're going to go for Burn Down the House instead, blow up our whole board. That is rough. Okay. Pretty great stuff here. Go Raven Man. I want to hold up Infernal Grasp, so I think I'm going to Raven Man, and then I'm going to use the blood token to play a 1-drop. I'd rather go Pit Fighter here than Sleeper. I'll go Pit Fighter here. Draw a card. We hit a Reinforced Ronin. Now we will play the Pit Fighter and hold up Infernal Grasp. I guess I'll have 3 blockers if I need to just block something they play. Yeah, if they don't wipe the board, we can just trump with Pit Fighter or something. We don't actually need Infernal Grasp up here. So a fresh, new, large board state right after the board wipe, that feels pretty good. This Phyrexian Arena definitely being a double-edged sword for us. We are down to 10 here, which is definitely scary against the mono-red deck. Reinforced Ronin is the play. Unearth the Scrapwork Mutt. Will they discard a card to draw a card? We'll get another bird if they do, but they will probably cast whatever they discard. Yep. It's a 1-drop creature, so they get to cast that as well. Very good value from the Scrapwork Mutt. Vindictive Flame Stoker. They can discard their hand to draw 4 more cards at a later time. Another land. Go to combat. I really can't be taking too much of this damage here. The Ronin's going to go back to their hand, and they can keep playing it and hitting me with it. The Scrapwork Mutt at least will just stay exiled, so I'll trade with the Ronin, but I'll take the 2. And let's upgrade the Sleeper. Okay. Land. Drop the Haunted Ridge. 7 mana. We drop a Soul Theme. I still have Infernal Grasp mana. And Ronin mana. Just don't channel the Ronin this turn. Yep, seems like our best bet. I guess channeling the Ronin would give us another bird. Yeah, I think I'm just trying to hit them 2 turns in a row for lethal here. Hopefully Infernal Grasp is enough to keep us alive through their next turn. If we survive this turn, we should probably be able to find a lethal crackback. Especially with Underdog's Blitz if I have enough life. That will be difficult though, because I'm probably, yeah, we're definitely grasping ourselves. Down to 5. Blow that up before combat. Down to 5. Arena puts us down to 4. They've only got 1 mana up though. So Flamestoker blocks Soul Fiend, but they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're dead on board. Still gonna play it safe though in case they have a burn spell, make sure they're dead even through a burn spell. So we're definitely playing the Ronin as well. Let's draw the card off of it too. Alright, and then we have another blocker we can play next turn. Sweet. Drop the Ronin. None of these are going to do any extra damage this turn. I mean, Underdog would, but then I'm going to die to a 1 mana, 2 damage burn spell. There's a lot of those, so I'm not going to put myself to 2 life here. That feels risky. We're just going to send all this in and hope that's enough. And there's the concession. It's going to be 1-0 to start it off. And there's our beautiful Sawblade Scamp, oily card style, very black and white. Pretty cool. Alright. Pretty great mana base in the hand. We've got turn 2 Misery's Shadow, a burn down the house. If things get out of hand. Seems like a pretty great place to start. I do want to make it to 5 mana, so I'm just going to Xander's Lounge turn 1. And get my tap land out of the way. Epicure turn 1 from our opponent is very, very good in this format. Probably on Misery's Shadow over Sleeper here. Riveteer's Requisitioner is the turn 2 play. That's a 3-1, and when it dies, they get a treasure. If I trade it into my Misery's Shadow, though, they will not get a treasure because it technically won't die. It'll get exiled. Play another black source here so I can evolve my Sleeper without shooting myself in the face with my Sulphurous Springs. Then I'm also holding up a Cathartic Pyre if I need to burn something. We could also be on the burn down the house plan, but just an instant speed Sokenzin to make 2 1/1s is going to be very good against their current board state. We could block their 3-1 and their 1-1 with this card. I don't think I'm going to need to burn down the house to get a lead on this board state at this rate. Getting pretty wide now, but I can still pyre the Goro Goro. Oh, this is going to be really good for us. We can just double pump the Misery's Shadow. Exile it and they don't get a treasure. Alright. 4th land holding up Sokenzin here. They need 5 mana to use Goro Goro to make dragon tokens. They can give their board haste, but that's fine. Squee, Dubious Monarch it is. I think we're just going to pyre Squee before it attacks. And it'll get exiled so it can't come back from the grave, which is also excellent for us. Okay, pass turn, so we evolve the Sleeper this time. Blade Coil Serpent. So now I want to get to 6 mana. Probably am on Cruelty of Gix here, even though it's going to shoot me in the face. We've done a pretty good job controlling things thus far. Dragon Engine or Stormseeker? Probably Stormseeker. The Dragon Engine would not get exiled. They can choose if they want to exile it. They don't have to. So if we discard a Dragon Engine, they'd have an Unearther waiting in the grave. Well, I guess they have Gorogoro to give anything haste, so... Dragon Engine still would have been a fine choice. Hammer Hand in Hand is actually kind of scary too, but we could end up just burning down the house if they're going to cast Hammer Hand here, because then they'll be completely out of cards. And Cruelty of Gix is going to let us tutor up something. We're not going to have anything in any graveyard to reanimate, though, because they're Etching of Kumano. Oh, this only exiles stuff if it was dealt damage by their sources, so I guess Burn Down the House will actually kill our Misery Shadow. So we will have one card in the graveyard for Cruelty of Gix on turn 3, so that's good. We've got the mana for Blade Coil Serpent. Probably just grab a Sheoldred. Seems like the most busted card, just in standard in general. And then we burn down the house. And pass the turn. Might as well hold up a man of any color instead of a... instead of just a red source, or a black source. Alright, so our opponent is playing off the top, whereas we have a Blade Coil, a Sheoldred, and we're going to have a Misery Shadow back on board from Cruelty. So this should be a very firm lead here. She's just going to go Sheoldred first and hold up Go for the Throat. Get all this life gain going to get back up. So a hearty life total against the mono red deck. And they are going to scoop them up. That is a big stable board state for the mid-range deck. We are now 2 wins down. Just got to find 3 more to get all our card styles. So time to grab our Urabrask's Anointer card style. Here we are in game 3. We've got cheap interaction between Go for the Throat and Abrade. Got that underdog to play as well, and we've got the good late game, so we'll keep it. Both colors as well is always necessary. So great to have them. Opponent's going to start with the Deathcap Glade. Interesting. I'm going to go Sleeper turn 1 here. I only need 1 mana to evolve it next turn, so I can play the tap land turn 2 and evolve this. So they are on Riveteers, black, green, and red. Fang of Shigeki is the first play, and that's going to hold off our evolved Sleeper. Bloodfell Caves for another black-red source. They are going to disfigure the Sleeper. Even if I evolve it, it'll die here. And an evolving Adaptive, that can get quite big. So we'll probably want to kill that pretty soon. Want to just Abrade it immediately, or am I still playing Underdog here? Next turn I'll have the mana to play Underdog and still hold up a removal spell, but I can also just play Soulfiend next turn if I hit a red source, but that's only if I hit a red source. I think I want to play it safe here, just make sure this Adaptive doesn't get any bigger. I'm likely to Abrade it. If they just poke me for 2, that's fine. We'll wait and see what they do post-combat. Just pass the turn. Maybe it's just like hexproof tricks to protect it. Oh, Adaptive is gone. Just a Fang of Shigeki hanging out. Underdog and hold up our Go for the Throat here. Though we do not have the second red source to play Soulfiend. That's a cool mountain. That's just one of the Baldur's Gate ones. I don't know why I like that. I like that mountain. It's very classic, very traditional. 4 cards in hand for our opponent. We'll see what they're up to soon enough. Right now it just looks like Riveteer's good stuff. That's a Riveteer's good stuff card. We're going to go for the throat on that. Just do it right now while they're tapped out. This is a card that would allow them to play something from the top of their library with mana cost less than or equal to the damage they deal to us with this creature. So they hit us for 5, and then if they have something that costs 5 or less on top of their library, they can just cast it. Otherwise, they still just draw it, put it in their hand. Alright, well, I guess it's Dragon Engine time. We'll definitely be cool with the Underdog for Fang trade because of its Blitz ability. Alright, fine with me. And then we'll drop a Dragon Engine down. Pass the turn. It's just a pretty solid creature to have on board here. 2/2 double strike. Mishra claimed by Gix. That's pretty scary. Every time they attack, they drain us for X life, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So we'll lose a lot of life, they'll gain a lot of life. If they get their own Phyrexian Dragon Engine, they get to meld this into the gigantic, absolutely game-ending Phyrexian Artificer that is Mishra lost to Phyrexia. So do I even just burn down a single Mishra here? I maybe do, honestly. Probably not yet. Because I'm going to burn down the house anyway, I can just chump block Mishra, and then I'll burn down the house next turn after they maybe play another creature. That's another creature, but it kills the Dragon Engine, so I do take 4 damage for waiting. That's still probably fine. Take 4 more damage to also kill their Twin Shot Sniper. Here we go. Burn down the house. Gotta take a damage to play that as well. But they're down to 2 cards in hand. If I can cast this Blade Coil, if I hit a land, I can make them discard their whole hand. Purifying Dragon, 4/3 flyer. Spooky. We actually don't have a way to deal with that right now. That's not good. Guess I could Cruelty and just search for an answer for the dragon. I could just make a 4/4 flyer off the Elder Dragon War and hope that that's good enough. None of their creatures are good enough to pick up off Cruelty. Yeah, we might just be on make a 4/4 flyer here. Master's Rebuke to kill our flyer. We're going to be taking 4. Going to be a big hit. Down to 7. There is a Strangle off the top, though, and that is exactly what the doctor ordered. Their last card in hand, a protection spell. It is not. So we Strangle and pass the turn. I don't think I'm going to go to 5 to draw a card with Underdog. I guess I do really want that 6th land. Yeah, let's go to 5 here. Hopefully I don't have another big high power blitz card. I guess we are putting ourselves dead to, 5 power blitz creatures. Cathartic Pyre. He's Goblin Firebomb. They can blow up any permanent if they hit 1 more mana. And they're going to pass the turn. Could Cruelty back their Mishra so that I can gain some life here? That actually might be pretty reasonable. I think I'm going to do that. And then if I unearth the Dragon Engine, I can meld their own Mishra. Although I think it would go to their control. So I don't think I can do that. You both own and control them. Dang. Oops. I was looking at the graveyard thing and I was trying to just close the graveyard thing and I accidentally put it on chapter 1, which is not good for me because I have to pay 3 life next turn now. And now they just have to hit me for 2. Yeah, I obviously intended to put this on chapter 3, but I was just trying to hit the done to the graveyard button. But obviously it popped up with the OK for Cruelty to Gix button there. That is unfortunate. Part of the perks of playing digital Magic. At least our opponent just hits a land here. Guess I can grab Sheoldred then. If I'm searching my library anyway, find some life gain. Although now I think I'd rather play Blade Coil and make them discard their hand. But I think I still want Sheoldred for later. I don't think I have any faster life gain than Sheoldred, really. Got Anya. Yeah, I think it's Sheoldred. Or I could take the giant 7/5 lifelinker, but I don't have the mana to play it as a 7/5 yet. I'd need to draw another land to do that. Okay, so we go black, 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 black. Actually just not going to give this haste. I'm just going to have them discard their hand. And pass the turn. The Pack Song Pup here. So that gets bigger every turn. Keeps making itself bigger. I am going to grab their Mishra for life gain. And then here's Sheoldred for life gain. And I can Pyre the pup out of the way. Although I don't really need to. So I'll just save my Cathartic Pyre. Alright, pass the turn. Gain a little bit of life, go back up to 5. We're down to 12, so we can lethal them. We go like Blitz Jaxus. Haste the Blade Coil. That's the wrong color, I need red. Haste the Blade Coil. Discarding Cathartic Pyre, exiling the Pyre and killing the pup with it. Yeah. And they are going to scoop them up there. It's going to take a little while to go through the motions, but we do get lethal. We kill their creature and attack for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, plus the 4 life drain from their Mishra. So we are now 3 wins deep. We're going to grab that slow bad Iron Goblin card style. There it is. That's the coolest one. Very similarly to those manga Planeswalker arts, I do prefer the ones that have more black on them than more white. Yeah, that's the coolest style so far. I just don't like how bright they are when it's just like, you know, the splotch of black on just the pure white black background. But when most of the artwork is that darker color and the whites really just accentuate the bright areas, that's just super, super cool. I like that artwork a lot. That is a sweet card style. Alright, here we are for our next game. Both colors in hand, super keepable. We got a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and some good interaction. Let's go for it. Oh, they've got a Jin-Gataxias avatar? That's pretty sick. That is pretty sick. On green-white, starting with overgrown farmland. Here's a forest, pass the turn. Hit for one with Epic here. This game I do have plenty of ways to discard my hand, so I'm just going to hope they don't have early removal for Ravenman, and we can try to win off of that aspect of gameplay. So probably like green-white enchantment-y stuff, or just green-white in general, I guess. I can kill that Augur here. I'm going to do that. As much as I'd love to play Gix, I don't have a second black anyway. So we'll discard Cathartic Pyre, trigger the Ravenman and the Autonomous Furnace, and blow up the Augur of Autumn. Hit for 3, and then we'll make a 1/1 bird in the end step. Very good. 4th land from our opponent. Cemetery Protectors, like a green-white tokens deck here. That can make a 1/1 soldier every time they play a creature, since they exiled a creature card from their grave. Well, I don't have removal. So I just play Florian here. I could thrill a possibility of the underdog away, hoping to draw 1 land in the next 2. That'll trigger Ravenman again, and we keep the flying theme going. That seems reasonable. Okay, we do hit a land, so we do get to play the underdog. Just hit in the sky, get another bird, and that is our route to victory here. Especially with Gix coming up now that we have the second black source. Draw a lot of cards off these birds. Also start sacking all of the birds to Anya's 2-mana ability, draining them for 2 life each time. Alright, so a Cloaked Cadet can start drawing cards for them. Well, there's a Sheoldred for us. Pretty busted card, but I think I want to get some card draw here, especially since I don't have my land draw for turn. Yeah, we want to find our 5th land, ideally. See if we can find it off the birds. Draw 2 cards. No land. There is the land, though. Second drop, very nice. They'll play that land past the turn. Opponent is down to 12. We are at 18. We did pay 2 life to Gix. Adeline Resplendent Cathar, excellent card, one of my favorite cards. Not because I play it in Standard a lot, but it's technically one of my favorite cards in Standard because it's one of my favorite cards and it is currently in Standard, but I play that in Explorer in the mono-white aggro deck, just mono-white humans aggro. This card is absurd. Love that card. Speaking of things that are absurd, we can make our opponent discard 2 cards here off of our Blade Coil Serpents, and it'll be hasting out to trade into one of their blockers. So they'll have no hand, we'll get new birds next turn. So they'll have plenty of blockers. And we'll draw a couple more cards off of Gix. could hit us pretty hard on the crackback, but they definitely can't kill us. Okay, I'm just shooting myself in the face for a ton here. Okay, end step, we have to discard a card. Could see myself having to burn down the house. It's unlikely, but possible. What would I just not have to do at all? Probably Florian. Like, Anya gives an alternate route to victory. Gix is already a huge card draw engine. We don't need the Florian card draw. Yeah, they're at 4 life. If we survive this attack, we kill them. Hit them for 3 in the sky, and then drain them for a couple points of life with Anya. You sure we're killing Adeline? Taken 3. Down to 12. There's Sigarda, Champion of Light, for a flying, trampling angel. They can block one of our birds, but we only need to hit them with 2 and then sacrifice 1 more, so we still have the bird lethal here. They block a bird, get hit for 2, then we play Anya, sack the other bird. And that'll put them to 0. Okay, untapped land, here's Anya. Could sack the blood instead, I guess. But yeah, either way, drain them for the final 2 life, and that's going to be victory number 4. Time to go check out our Capricious Hellraiser style. How good is this one? Oh, that's another pretty sweet one. Yeah, the more oil on the artwork, the better, in my opinion. The more dark colors contrasting with the brightness. All right, yeah, another sweet one. Love that style. 1 more to go. All right, a very sweet keep here. Ronin, Mutt, Go for the Throat, and Bloodcaster. A bunch of cheap stuff and some ways to discard and get some extra value. Super into the hand. Our opponent is on the play, but they have taken a mulligan. They're on blue-red with a Shivan Reef as the first play. Attack for 2. Pass the turn, they're down to 18, and Ronin hops back into our hand. Now a Balmor Battle Mage Captain. Ooh, this could be a pretty combo-y deck. A lot of discard and draw kind of spells, and then everything they discard, just keep casting them to buff their board with Balmor. +1/+0 and trample to all their creatures every time. Could be pretty sweet. I'm going to Bloodcaster here. I am going to want to go for the Throat Balmor eventually. Maybe I should just do it while they're tapped out. Probably. Blue-red spells decks don't tend to have a ton of creatures, so dealing with the important ones like Balmor just while they're tapped out seems good. They probably have a lot of negates and hexproof spells and all of that. And then now we'll play the Bloodcaster. Make Disappear. Go ahead and counter our flyer. Right. 3 mana, do I want to Arena or Gix? I should just go Dragon Engine. I'll play the card that I'm the least worried about resolving. And seems like just no counterspells for that. Play a land past the turn. Probably no counterspells, so I'm pretty cool to go Gix here. If they don't have other interaction, then we'll draw 2 cards when we hit them with Dragon Engine, which is super nice. Could have played Ronin as well. I actually just should have. Because I don't have a lot of 1 mana cards in the deck. Figured I might draw something better, but there's pretty low count, especially in Singleton, of 1 mana things to be doing instead of Ronin, so we should have just hit them for 2 more, drawn another card there. Could have been 100% mana efficient. Definitely would have been the better play. They just out of stuff. And that is one of the ways to try to punish the blue-red spells decks. They need 1 creature on the board to get all those benefits. They need a Haughty Djinn or a Balmor, Tolarian Terror, something like that. You've got the removal to kill just a couple creatures. They can run out. I've definitely had that happen in Dominar United draft, where I've drafted a really sick blue-red spells deck, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great deck. And it is a great deck against almost every deck you get paired up against. Like all your average synergistic builds that are trying to like out aggro you and stuff, like you're bouncing their stuff and burning their stuff and playing your own creatures and hitting them back, and it's going super well. But then I'll just get paired up against like green-black 15 removal spells, 7 creatures, and I'm like, well, I literally milled out because I just ran out of creatures in the deck. So it's like I can stop them from doing literally everything, but a bunch of my cards in the blue-red spells deck draw me extra cards, so I just get to this point where I can't keep any creatures on board, and my deck is smaller than theirs, so I just mill out. Happened to me in a paper draft of Dominar United. So I think our opponent is just... they have just left the game here. We'll go Ronin Sulfime here. I don't think it super matters at this point. Seems like they're basically scooping. Just draw a million. I'm shooting myself a bunch if they have like a ton of fireballs or something. Actually, we want the untapped land. They have 4 copies of Lightning Bolt. They can shoot me for 12, but that would be very illegal for multiple reasons. It's not in Standard, and this is Singleton. Alright, and our opponent did just leave the game. They just roped out. And we will get the victory there. So that is our 5th win. We'll get that final card style for Sulfime. Hopefully it's a pretty sweet one, because Sulfime's a very cool card. So let's see. Claim our prize. Okay, that is also pretty sweet. As I said before, the more kind of dark the artwork is overall, the more I like it. It's not as blinding and everything, but that is a super, super sweet card style, and that's going to end this event. Again, I do highly recommend the Rakdos Blood sort of strategies if you want to build your own version of that kind of deck, or you can check out my deck list in the link in the description below, or Magic Arena Zone's got a similar deck list for the Rakdos mid-range kind of builds. Highly, highly recommend that strategy as one of the most powerful in this format if you're looking to actually play the format. But again, if you just want the card styles, you don't have to play the format at all. You can just pay the entry fee and wait a couple days. So definitely don't need a great deck to get your card styles. You can get them just for the entry fee. I also highly recommend the Esper mid-range deck. We didn't see any of that yet, but like Rafine and Ledger Shredder are really, really nice in Standard in general. When you add the ability to cast whatever they're discarding, they're even better. So Ledger Shredder's 1 and a blue for a 1/3 that connives whenever you cast your second spell, letting you draw a card, discard a card. So already a great card, but even better when you can cast whatever you're discarding. And then Rafine is just super busted in this format. Already a great card in Standard, white, a blue, and a black for a 1/4 with Ward 1 that lets you connive every time you attack. So every time you attack, you draw a card and discard a card. Well, in this format, that's a really easy way to just flat out draw a card, because you can just make sure not to cast anything till post-combat. You just attack with Rafine or attack with whatever creature you want to connive with her ability, and then discard whatever you're planning to cast, and then just play it in main phase 2. So I think that the Esper decks have some really sweet inclusions as well. And of course they have access to like Liliana and the Raven Man, just like the Rakdos deck does. So yeah, Rakdos and Esper, I think, strongest decks in the format if you're just wanting to build something super powerful to play around with. But it's kind of an endless queue event, so really the world is your oyster. And again, you can just get the card styles for the entry fee. If you don't want to play at all, you don't have to. That is going to end today's video, though. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feeds. You can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below if you'd like to hang out with me live. And you can check out the Patreon link in the description below if you'd like to support the channel directly, like these patrons you see on screen. Outside of that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.